Guten Tag, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fins Nation. I am your host, Louis Sung, and today I'm going to go ahead and just give you guys a quick preview of the Miami Dolphins facing the Kansas City Chiefs in Germany. So, this game is going to be possibly the biggest test for the team the entire year. Even if the Chiefs aren't necessarily the toughest team that they've ever faced, the fact that they are facing the reigning Super Bowl champions, there is a lot going against them, and there is a lot going for them as well. I'm going to break down all of the details for you guys in just a few minutes. But before that, really quick, just want to go ahead and mention that, as always, this show is brought to you by our good friends over at PrizePicks.com. PrizePicks.com is the revolutionary fantasy platform where you can now pick up to 6 different players across professional sports leagues. Whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, one of each, it's up to you to decide. Just choose whether your chosen player will get more or less than their projected stat. They give you free squares, special Taco Tuesday promos, and of course, Flex Friday specials, where you can get your money back if you lose or multiply the amount of money you can normally win. So with offers like that, it's hard to justify not signing up if you are any kind of a fantasy sports fan. So use the promo code 5, that's F-I-V-E, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. Again, that's promo code 5, F-I-V-E. Go to PrizePicks.com, deposit your $100, and let PrizePicks give you $100 of their dollars for you to play with and get started winning today. This show is now also affiliate sponsored by My Nintendo Store. Let's face it, folks, we're all gamers at heart, and Nintendo's been there for us for nearly 50 years, creating all-time classics that are remembered by every generation growing up. And right now, they have special deals going on for what are sure to be more top-selling games in Nintendo's endlessly long lineup. For instance, Super Mario RPG, a classic from the days of the Nintendo 64, is being completely remastered from the ground up, and will be releasing on November 17th for new audiences to enjoy Mario's first ever RPG adventure. And out right now is Super Mario Wonder, the Mario Brothers' latest completely new game that is already receiving rave reviews from both critics and actual gamers alike. Just click the links in the description below to order or pre-order either of these awesome titles, and you'll be receiving bonus items upon making your purchase. My Nintendo Store, your best and quickest gateway to the world of Nintendo. Alright, everybody, so I think everybody knows what's at stake here. As we discussed earlier this week, the Miami Dolphins still have not beaten a team that the media wants to admit is a good football team. They're looking at the opponents that they lost to, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. They're looking at those teams and saying, that's why the Dolphins are not real contenders. And while there are several people in the media who have given the Dolphins their credit, and the credit that they deserve, I should add, there are still those few who are still holding on for dear life, trying to make the suggestion that the Dolphins don't really deserve it, Tua doesn't really deserve it, because somehow it undermines Tua Tagovailoa because he has Tyreek Hill as his main receiver. The fact that Tyreek Hill is performing at such a high level is the reason why Tua does not deserve to be given this level of credit, and why the Dolphins' success has almost nothing to do with Tua and has everything to do with the weapons that Tua has at his disposal and the level of coaching that he has at his disposal as well. It has nothing to do with Tua, and we'll go back and forth on this for the rest of his career. I am almost positive. Will he ever win an MVP? I don't know. Will he deserve it? I also don't know that either. So far this year, it feels like he should be deserving of the MVP, only because we're looking at it from the perspective of MVP is a quarterback award. Even if they don't necessarily deserve it, even if they're not necessarily the best player on their team, it is still the quarterback who ultimately gets the award, because that is the position that most people pay attention to. Everybody always looks at the quarterback. In fact, a lot of people make choices on who they're going to pick on any given week to win based on who the quarterbacks are. For instance, as I'm recording this, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Tennessee Titans right now are facing off against each other. It's going to be Kenny Pickett and Will Levis as of right now. Who would you pick based on that matchup? Most people would probably say, oh, well, we'll pick Kenny Pickett. We don't know what Will Levis has to offer other than that one game that he did something. There will be some people who will say Will Levis because X, Y, and Z, but most people will look at Pickett and say that he's probably the guy who's going to win based on that quarterback matchup. Let's be a little more relevant. Miami Dolphins versus Kansas City Chiefs, or in more layman's terms, Tua Tagovailoa versus Patrick Mahomes. You're going to look at that matchup, and what's the first thing you're going to say? Oh, well, obviously Patrick Mahomes is the better quarterback compared to Tua Tagovailoa. Even me, a Dolphins fan who is defending Tua Tagovailoa pretty much every single day on every single show that I am on, is not going to be such a homer that he is willing to say, oh yeah, I would definitely take Tua over Patrick Mahomes. No, that is not true. There is not a single human being on this earth that would legitimately say they want Tua instead of Patrick Mahomes. What Patrick Mahomes does is above and beyond what any quarterback in NFL history has accomplished. He is that good. And that's saying a lot, especially for Dolphins fans who have seen the likes of Dan Marino for so many years. Now, here's the thing, though. Somehow, this has turned into a quarterback versus quarterback discussion, and we're completely dismissing what it is that the Kansas City Chiefs are lacking and what the Miami Dolphins have in abundance. And I'm going to break this down for you right now. First and foremost, what do the Kansas City Chiefs have that the Dolphins do not? They have Patrick Mahomes. That's about it. You can say, well, they have Travis Kelce, a tight end. Okay, sure, you can go with that. They have an elite defensive line. They get a lot of sacks. Dolphins have been getting a lot of sacks. They have running backs. Not really. Jerick McKinnon looks like he might be the guy who's going to be playing if the practice participation continues the way that it's going. Miami Dolphins have Raheem Mostert. So he's already doing a fantastic job in this scheme. And if Connor Williams is coming back to play against the Chiefs, then the run blocking is going to get a phenomenal upgrade for them. So I would say that as far as the running backs go, Dolphins have a decent lead in that regard. How about the wide receivers? There is no question there who the better wide receiver core is. It is definitely the Miami Dolphins, far and beyond anything that Kansas City could even hope to throw out there. They had to pick up Mecole Hardman to come back and play in Kansas City just so that Patrick Mahomes would have somebody familiar and decent to throw the football to. Meanwhile, Miami has Tyreek Hill, who, by the way, is Patrick Mahomes' old running mate and former Super Bowl champion with him and allowed him to get MVP votes and awards. Why did we not dismiss Patrick Mahomes for having Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce? And having Andy Reid as his head coach? Why does that not count? Why is Tua the only quarterback who has his weapons hyperanalyzed and his contributions to the offense dismissed because of it? I personally feel like that the reason is because the media have put themselves into a hole that they cannot dig themselves out of without looking like complete and utter idiots. Never mind the fact that they already look like complete and utter idiots because they are not going to back off of their stance. This whole concept of you're not allowed to change your mind if you are a media personality. If you are somebody and it's your job to analyze games and to give your opinions and give your commentary, somehow it is a referendum on you. If you change your mind about a player or admit that you were wrong about a player and give appreciation for what somebody has accomplished. Why is that a bad thing? I don't understand that. I have never understood that. The entire concept of being a TV or radio personality, basically, that's what I'm doing here. I am on this show, I'm on this podcast, and I am talking to you guys like a personality, saying, this is my opinion, here's what I think, here is why I think what I think. And if I end up being wrong, then the best thing that I can do, at least this is common sense for me, is that I should admit, okay, I was wrong about this, and I was wrong about this. Now, if it turns out that I was right about something, then sure, I'll flex a little bit. I'll say, you know what, I was totally right on that, and you guys should listen to me, and blah, blah. Everybody does that. Everybody does that. But for some reason, when it comes to Tua Tagovailoa, the idea that you have to admit that you're wrong is somehow paramount to high treason in the NFL. I don't understand it. I don't get it, and I don't understand why it's specifically him that causes this reaction. What did you guys do? What did you guys say about Tua that made it so that you are not allowed to change your mind without losing your own internal credibility, I guess. Like in your own mind, you are no longer somebody worthy of doing this job. I don't think that's what it is. Is it pressure from above saying you cannot say nice things about Tua because this reason and that reason? I don't know why. Maybe some people have insight out there somewhere. Maybe some of you guys out there know some folks inside the NFL. Who knows? I have no idea. I don't know who you are out there. I would love to get to know y'all, but that's something you're going to have to give me in the comments. But with all that said, this game against the Kansas City Chiefs is going to be the biggest challenge that they're going to face all year. The Kansas City Chiefs are the reigning Super Bowl champions. And in spite of the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs basically have no wide receivers to speak of, the fact that their offense seems to be stifled by the lack of weapons that Patrick Mahomes has to his disposal, this is going to be a game that if the Dolphins win it, there are going to be a lot of people out there, including those who refuse to admit they were wrong. And they're going to have to go ahead and say, you know what, this Miami Dolphins team is legit. Or they'll find some excuse. Maybe some flag will go in Miami's favor, and they're going to say, well, that was the reason the Chiefs lost the game. They'll always find an excuse. But in this game, everything seems to be going Miami's way early on. Jalen Ramsey is back healthy. And even if he's not necessarily fully healthy, because obviously he's just 3 months removed from a meniscus tear, and no matter how minor it might have been, or no matter how miraculous his recovery, that is still something that he's going to have to take a little bit of time just to be able to strengthen back up to full absolute strength. He's been phenomenal for his return. His debut against the New England Patriots, he literally had an interception and he almost took it to the house. I don't know how much better you can get, but believe me, there's always room to get better, especially when you're coming back from an injury. There's always going to be that extra little oomph that you can add on just after having a little bit more time to recover and train it up. So this is not a knock on Jalen Ramsey. What he's done is nothing short of spectacular. But there is going to be some time, and he'll come back and he'll say, you know what, I feel a whole lot better than I did last year. That's just how these injury things go. You don't think Tua is feeling a lot better this year than he was a couple of years ago when he initially had the injury that knocked him out in the first place? I'm not talking about the concussions. I'm talking about the hip injury that he dealt with in Alabama, and he had to come back and he had to grow and he had to get back strong. He had to train his tail off to become the Tua Tagovailoa that we see today. Credit to Nick Hicks for training the crap out of him, and he's turned into a phenomenal player. But there was more time. There was the difference between getting healthy and then getting strong, if that makes sense. So Tua's back now, and the Kansas City Chiefs have no wide receivers. Miami has the best wide receivers. Kansas City's defense is no joke. But to counter that, Miami is likely going to be getting Connor Williams back. They might, we are going to see, it remains to be seen, we might be getting Teron Armstead back. At left guard, it's probably going to be either Lester Cotton or Robert Jones. We'll see what happens. It depends on what happens with Robert Hunt. I do not know how that's going to go down. So far, he has not been practicing, so we will see what happens. If he does play, though, then that's going to be a major boon for Miami's offensive line, and not to mention the running game, which is so crucial to making this offense succeed. There's a lot of things going in Miami's favor right now. A lot of things. Xavier Howard's going to be back. Jalen Ramsey is still here. Javon Holland's going to be back. Nick Needham is back. You have Christian Wilkins and Zach Sealer still playing. Jalen Phillips is back. Bradley Chubb is playing out of his mind right now. David Long Jr. is finally starting to get this defense to the point where he understands everything, and he's playing like the guy that we expected we were going to get. Jerome Baker is there as his support. There are players all over this team. Now, I didn't even mention Kader Kohu. Now, I've listed all these reasons why the Dolphins will win this game. Everything seems to be going in Miami's favor. Again, I get that. And yet somehow there is still this underlying feeling that the Dolphins are not going to come away from this game victorious, at least for me. On Pulse of Fins Nation, I had Ron and Duke kind of give me a hard time about it because I ultimately chose the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game by a score of like 33-30. I didn't think it was going to be a blowout like it was against Buffalo, and I don't think it's going to be a penalty-ridden just flag fest. They're on a neutral playing field over there in Germany. There's going to be just as many Dolphins fans as there are Chiefs fans, I think, or at least I would hope so, especially with everything the Dolphins have done. There was literally a tweet the other day that I saw that there were kids in New York who were dressing up as Miami Dolphins players. Suddenly, Mike McDaniel is one of the most popular Halloween costumes to ever exist. At the very least, it's a cheap one. All you need is a pair of sunglasses, a watch maybe, a hoodie jacket, and just a clipboard, I guess. That's probably the cheapest Halloween costume you can possibly come up with. So, hey, I mean, it works if that's your sort of thing. Defense, I believe, is going to be the key for both teams in this upcoming game. Both sides of this is going to be decided by how good the defense plays. Chris Jones for the Kansas City Chiefs, he is an absolute monster. Connor Williams coming back is going to be crucial because if Liam Eichenberg has to deal with Chris Jones, Tua might be running around a lot. And that's why the defense is going to be so important for Kansas City, at least, because if they can get some pressure on Tua, get him off rhythm, Miami's going to have a hard time getting some points on the board, at least as many as they normally do. In Miami's case, with Patrick Mahomes, you always have to be so incredibly careful because you never know when he's going to do something just inhuman to that football. He does things that, again, no other quarterback in the NFL can do, and he does it on the regular. It's almost like he prefers to play backyard football than he does operating within the system. Tua is very much the opposite of that. He loves operating within the system. He doesn't like playing backyard football, I don't think. So with Patrick Mahomes, though, you get him off his rhythm, he'll run around, he'll find somebody, and then Travis Kelce will just suddenly break free from his defender, go run a random route, just go in the middle of the field where nobody is, and he'll just sit down and catch it, and that's going to be a first down. It just feels unscripted with them a lot of the time. So it's going to be so crucial that whoever is covering Travis Kelce needs to be on him like glue. He cannot escape to get away for a big play. Because if you force Patrick Mahomes to rely on his current wide receivers, it is not going to go well for Kansas City, I don't feel like. Because unless Patrick Mahomes intends to run for like 80 yards and run for the touchdowns himself, his weapons are just not good enough, man. They're just not. And that's been the one thing about it, that people are looking at Patrick Mahomes and they're basically giving him a pass saying, oh, well, Patrick Mahomes doesn't have anybody to throw the football to. No kidding. You mean that even the great Patrick Mahomes, the future greatest of all time quarterback in NFL history, doesn't look as good when he has bottom tier wide receivers? You don't say. You're saying that has an effect on his performance. That can't be. He must be the best of all time, right? So that means he can make anybody look good. To some extent, with Patrick Mahomes, it's true. I will admit that. But there is a limit to how much you can get away with. And they're at that limit. If they lose anybody else, it's not going to be easy for Patrick Mahomes to put up points, especially if Miami's defense is back to where it was supposed to be. Vic Fangio finally has a healthy defense to work with. And it is going to be so crucial that they stop Patrick Mahomes from putting up 30 on them. If they can limit, I'm not even saying stop. There's no stopping Kansas City. They will score points at some point, unless you're the Denver Broncos and somehow you just manage to stop them from scoring points. But I digress. If you can limit Patrick Mahomes to scoring maybe 2 touchdowns, then all Miami has to do is just keep doing what they've been doing, and they will win this football game. I do not know if I have that level of faith yet. I am still at the point where I need to see it happen before I can believe it. But if they do win, then I'm all in, man. Let's go win a Super Bowl. That's going to be it for this show. Thank you all so much for listening. Once again, if you have not already done so, make sure you go to prizepicks.com, use the promo code 5, that's F-I-V-E, and they will match up to $100 on your initial deposit when you sign up. And if you're looking for something new to play this holiday season, make sure you head on over to the links down below and go to My Nintendo Store, where you can pre-order Super Mario RPG, the remastered version coming for the Nintendo Switch, or Super Mario Wonder, which is out now, the latest completely new Super Mario Brothers game that is out there for you all to enjoy. So once again, the links are in the description below. Use those links, and you'll be getting bonus items when you make your purchase. So go out and down there and do it now. That's going to be it for this show. We will see you all next week for another episode of Fins Nation.